Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm your English teacher and storyteller, here to help you learn and grow your English in fun, practical, and sometimes very personal ways. Today, I want to tell you a story. It's not just a story, it's a real-life situation that all of us go through at some point, no matter where we live or what language we speak. We're going to talk about going to the doctor. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh no, not the doctor, right? The smell of antiseptic, the cold waiting room, the uncomfortable small talk with a stranger in a white coat holding a clipboard. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about medicine or health. It's about feelings. It's about communication. And it's about how an everyday situation can turn into a powerful lesson in language, culture, and yes, personal growth. So sit back, relax, maybe grab a cup of tea like me, and let's dive into the story. It all started on a rainy Tuesday morning. I woke up with a scratchy throat. You know that feeling, like someone took a piece of sandpaper and rubbed it gently on your tonsils while you were sleeping. Not painful exactly, but definitely not normal. I ignored it at first. Drank some water, cleared my throat, and said to myself, "It's probably nothing, just tired." But as the hours passed, something didn't feel right. My head started to ache, my voice sounded like a rusty door hinge, and the sneezing, oh the sneezing. I swear I used up an entire box of tissues before noon. Still, I hesitated. Because let's be honest, no one likes going to the doctor. It's awkward, it's inconvenient, and if you're living abroad or even just not confident in your English, it can be a little scary too. What if I don't understand the doctor? What if I can't explain how I feel? What if they ask questions I don't know how to answer? All those thoughts started swirling in my mind like a storm cloud. But then, I remembered something I always tell my students. The more uncomfortable the situation, the more important the lesson. So, I took a deep breath. I picked up my phone. And I made the call. "Hello, this is Central Health Clinic. How may I help you?" Her voice was calm, professional. I explained my symptoms slowly, clearly, and she booked me for a 3:30 appointment that afternoon. And just like that, it was real. I was going to the doctor. Now, let me pause here and say this. If you've ever felt nervous before a doctor's visit, especially in a second language, you are not alone. In fact, let's make this interactive. Leave a comment below right now and tell me. Have you ever had to go to the doctor in a language that wasn't your first? How did it go? What was the hardest part? I'd love to hear your stories because language learning is about real people and real emotions. Not just grammar rules and vocabulary lists. Anyway, back to the story. At around 3:15, I put on my coat, grabbed my umbrella, and stepped out into the rain. Each step toward the clinic felt heavier than the last. Not because I was feeling worse, though I was, but because of the unknown. The uncertainty. Would I understand the doctor? Would they understand me? I arrived at the clinic a few minutes early, my shoes squishing from the puddles. The waiting room was quiet. A few people sat with masks on, staring at their phones. I checked in at the front desk. Name? Date of birth? Have you had any recent contact with someone sick? Simple questions. But when you're nervous, even those can feel like riddles. I sat down and waited. And waited. And waited some more. And in that quiet moment, as the clock ticked and the air smelled faintly of disinfectant, I realized something. I wasn't just waiting to see a doctor. I was waiting to face a fear of being vulnerable, of not knowing the right words, of being judged for my pronunciation or hesitation. But I also knew this: every challenge is a chance to grow. And with that thought, I heard my name. "Mr. Taylor, the doctor will see you now." That was the beginning. So, there I was, standing in the doorway of the examination room. The nurse gave me a polite nod and gestured for me to sit down on the little bed. You know the one, with that crinkly white paper that tears the second you move. I sat down, took off my coat, and looked around. There were posters of human organs on the wall, a model of a knee joint, a little skeleton on a stand, as if to remind me of everything inside me that could go wrong. Comforting, right? Then the doctor walked in. He was tall, maybe in his late 40s, with kind eyes and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He wore a white coat with pens in the pocket and a name tag that read, Dr. Patel. "Good afternoon," he said, smiling as he sat down at the desk. "What brings you in today?" And just like that, it was my turn to talk. Now pause with me here, because this is where many English learners freeze up. That first question. What brings you in today? It's not the same as what is your problem, or why are you here? It's softer, more polite, more open-ended. But if you've never heard that expression before, it can feel confusing. So I took a breath and started with the basics. "Well, I've had a sore throat since this morning. It's getting worse. My head hurts and I've been sneezing all day." He nodded, typing quickly on his computer. "Any fever?" "A little, I think." "Do you feel pressure in your ears or sinuses?" "Yes, kind of." "Have you been in contact with anyone who's been sick lately?" "Not that I know of." It was like a dance. Question, answer, and honestly, I was proud of myself. My English was clear. I didn't rush. And even when I didn't know the perfect word, I used descriptions. That's a key lesson I always share. If you don't know the word, explain the idea. For example, I didn't remember the word congested, but I said, "It feels like my nose is full and I can't breathe well." Same meaning, different path, still understood. Then came the examination. "Let's take a look," he said, putting on gloves and picking up the little flashlight. "Open wide and say, ah, ah." He looked at my throat, felt my lymph nodes, listened to my breathing with a stethoscope. And then he leaned back, gave a small nod and said, "Well, the good news is, it looks like a viral infection. No need for antibiotics. Just rest, drink fluids, and give it a few days. I'll write a note for your work if you need it." And I almost sighed with relief, not just because I wasn't seriously ill, but because I had done it. I had made it through the visit, in English, with confidence. But here's where things got really interesting. As he typed up his notes, Dr. Patel glanced at me and said, "You know, your English is really good. Are you a teacher or something?" I smiled. "Yes, actually, I teach English." And we both laughed. He said something that stuck with me. "You know, a lot of people are nervous when they come in here. But being able to talk clearly about how you feel, that's half the battle." And he was right. Because going to the doctor isn't just about your body, it's about communication, it's about being heard. And even if your grammar isn't perfect, even if your accent is strong, if you can say what you feel and describe what you need, then you're doing amazing. So let's recap a few useful phrases that helped me during that visit, and that can help you too. "I've had a sore throat since this morning." Talk about when your symptoms started. "It feels like..." Describe sensations. It feels like pressure, burning, tightness, etc. "I think I might have a fever." Use might when you're not sure. I've been sneezing all day. Use present perfect continuous to show how long it's been happening. And of course, the doctor will see you now. A phrase that marks the moment of truth. That middle part of the story, sitting in the room, having that conversation, being examined, that's the heart of it. That's where all the learning and the real-life language takes place. But the story's not over yet. Because after every doctor's visit, there's something we all experience, whether we're patients, students, or storytellers like me. And that's the aftermath. What happens when you leave the clinic, go back home, and reflect on everything you felt? We'll talk about that next. So there I was, leaving the clinic. I stepped outside and the rain had stopped. The air still smelled of wet pavement and pine trees, but the sky had cleared just enough to let in some soft light. It felt like a small kind of victory. Not because I had solved a mystery illness or survived some grand medical drama, but because I had faced something. A fear, a discomfort, a language barrier, and I had gotten through it. That's the funny thing about going to the doctor. It's rarely about just a sore throat or a cough. It's about being vulnerable. It's about admitting you need help and trusting that someone will understand you. Now, back home, I changed into something warm, made a cup of lemon tea, and sat by the window. I wrapped myself in a blanket and just reflected. And you know what I realized? I hadn't just gone to the doctor. I had taken a language test, a life test, and I had passed. Let's talk for a moment about the feelings, the emotions you go through in moments like this, because that's what makes a story stick with you. Before the visit, I felt anxious, nervous. I doubted myself. I imagined the worst-case scenario. What if I couldn't explain my symptoms? What if the doctor misunderstood me? During the visit, I felt focused, alert. I listened carefully, spoke clearly, and stayed calm, even when I wasn't sure about every word. I reminded myself that clarity is more important than perfection. And afterward, I felt something surprising, proud. Not because I used big, fancy words, but because I didn't let fear stop me. I want you to remember this. Speaking a second language is not just about vocabulary and grammar, it's about courage. Every time you speak in English, even if it's just to say, "My throat hurts," or "I think I have a fever," you are being brave. And here's where our story ties into something deeper. Because life is full of doctor moments. Moments when we're uncertain, vulnerable, needing help. Moments when we have to speak, even when it's uncomfortable. It could be a job interview, a difficult conversation with a friend, or standing at a pharmacy counter trying to explain a prescription. And in all of those moments, language becomes more than just a tool. It becomes a bridge between you and the world, between your thoughts and someone else's understanding. That's why we tell stories like this. Not just to practice vocabulary, but to remind ourselves that we are learning for a reason. Because when the moment comes, and it will come, you'll need to speak, and you'll do it with more confidence than you thought possible. So before we end, let me give you a few more expressions you might find helpful during a doctor's visit. It hurts when I swallow. Very common for throat issues. I've been feeling weak and tired lately. Helps describe overall symptoms. I'm allergic to. Always useful in a medical setting. Don't forget this one. Can you explain that again, please? Never be afraid to ask this. Do I need a prescription? Useful to know what comes next. Use them, practice them, say them out loud right now with me. It hurts when I swallow. I've been feeling weak and tired lately. Can you explain that again, please? Great job. Now let me ask you, what's a real-life moment when you had to use English, even though it was hard? Was it at a hospital, a train station, a phone call? Tell me your story in the comments below. I read every one, and who knows? Maybe your story will help someone else find the courage to speak, too. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might be afraid of their next doctor's visit. Because learning English isn't just about sounding smart, it's about being heard. And you, my friend, deserve to be heard. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay healthy, stay kind, and keep learning. See you in the next story.